emotion, but there is a specific group of songs that went further. Songs not written for radio stations or arenas, written for the quiet, devastating moments when words alone simply are not enough. These songs were born from real pain, real grief, real loss. Every single one of them has a story behind it that is almost too heavy to hold. These are the 12 saddest songs in classic rock history. And once you know the truth behind them, they will never sound the same again.
Song 1, Fire and Rain. James Taylor, 1970.
I've seen fire and I've seen...
Let's start with a song that most people think they know. They don't. For decades, the urban legend around Fire and Rain was that it was about a girlfriend who died in a plane crash.
But I always thought that I'd see...
People built entire theories around the line. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. But the real story? It's actually 3 separate stories layered into one song. Each verse is a different moment of loss that Taylor was carrying alone.
Body's aching and my time is at hand.
The first verse is about his friend Suzanne Schnurr. She had taken her own life while Taylor was in London recording his first album for the Beatles' Apple Records. His friends knew he was fragile, deep in addiction, fighting to stay together. So they kept the news from him for months. When he finally found out, he wrote the first verse that night.
I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end.
The second verse is about heroin, about the long, cold, grinding process of withdrawal. The line about his body aching? That's not poetry, that's description. And the flying machines? That's his old band, The Flying Machine, which had collapsed under the weight of everyone's problems. Not a plane. A dream that came apart. Carole King played piano on the recording at Sunset Sound in Los Angeles. Her rhythmic, grounded style was exactly what held the song together, like a heartbeat under Taylor's acoustic fingerpicking.
Talk about things to come, sweet dreams.
Released in August 1970, Fire and Rain peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1998. Rolling Stone ranked it number 227 on its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time.
But I always thought that I'd see...
Taylor himself told NPR that he dives for the radio dial when it comes on, but he says he still loves performing it live. After more than 1,000 times, he says, he still gets back to the feeling he had when he wrote it. That's rare. That's what a masterpiece does.
Now won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help.
From a song that survived Fire and Rain, we move to one that came out of a rainy night somewhere else entirely. A quiet comeback story that nobody expected.
My body's aching and my time is...
Song 2, Rainy Night in Georgia, Brook, Benton, 1970. Here is the thing about Brook Benton in 1970. He should not have had this hit. By the late 1960s, Benton had been largely written off. He'd had a string of massive hits in the late 50s. It's Just a Matter of Time, Kiddio, a legendary duet with Dinah Washington. But then the Beatles arrived, and Motown exploded. And Benton's particular brand of velvet baritone soul simply stopped getting radio play.
Heavy rain falling.
He signed with Atlantic Records' Cotillion subsidiary in 1968, and his producer, the legendary Arif Mardin, handed him a demo tape by a Louisiana swamp rocker named Tony Joe White. Benton thought it was a rough recording. He didn't know it was the finished album version. He listened to it anyway, and then he recorded his own version with Cornell Dupree on guitar, Toots Thielemans on harmonica, and a string arrangement that turned a Southern Road song into something cinematic.
Distant morning of the
Tony Joe White, who wrote the song while thinking about rainy days in Marietta, Georgia, when he used to work on a road crew and stay home to play guitar whenever it rained, later said that when he heard Benton's recording, he played it 15 times without stopping. He said he had never heard a voice take a song and do that to it.
night in Georgia.
Rainy Night in Georgia entered the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1970. By March, it peaked at number 4 on the pop chart and hit number 1 on the soul chart. It spent 15 weeks on the Hot 100 and sold over 1 million copies.
It still comes out the same.
It was Brook Benton's last major hit. He died in 1988 from complications of spinal meningitis. He was 56 years old, so Rolling Stone has since named it one of the 500 greatest songs of all time. From a man's great comeback to a band's great debut. And this next song hit a double meaning so deep that the singer's own mother accidentally blew it on the radio. Song 3, Make It With You, Bread, 1970.
But baby, here goes.
Here's a question. What do you think this song is actually about? Because when David Gates returned to his hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, after his new band Bread had hit number 1 with this record, his mother threw him a big homecoming party.
There for those who sleep.
Newspaper reporters showed up. Local radio stations were there. It was a whole thing. And in a widely circulated interview, Mrs. Gates told everyone how proud she was of her son. She only had one question. She couldn't understand, she said, why did he have to call it Naked With You? That story has never been officially disputed.
And every little thing only time.
Make It With You was the second track that Gates and drummer Mike Botts recorded for Bread's second album, On the Waters. They needed a hit. Their debut album had barely cracked the top 100. Gates had decided to give it one more try. He went into the studio alone with Botts, playing acoustic guitar while the drummer played along. Then he added the bass, the electric guitar, and the strings himself afterward, because he said that was the only way he could control the emotional feel of the track.
It can be short or long.
Released in June 1970, Make It With You debuted mid-chart and spent 2 months climbing. On August 22, 1970, it knocked the Carpenters' Close to You off the number 1 spot. It stayed there for 1 week before being replaced by Edwin Starr's War. It was Bread's only number 1. It launched 12 consecutive top 40 singles for the band, and it was certified gold for over 1 million copies sold. From a band's number 1 surprise, we move to one of the most unexplainable hit songs of the decade. A number 1 that started in a bank ad, a 30-second TV commercial. That's all it was. Song 4, We've Only Just Begun. The Carpenters, 1970. In 1970, a California bank called Crocker Citizens National had a problem. They were not connecting with younger customers. Baby boomers were growing up, getting married, buying cars, needing mortgages, and they were walking right past Crocker's branches. The bank hired an ad agency, and an advertising creative named Hal Riney had an idea. Instead of a jingle, a real song. Not a product pitch, a mood. A story about a young couple just starting out. Riney turned to a songwriting team, Roger Nichols and Paul Williams. Williams later described the assignment as having all the romantic beginnings of a bank commercial. They wrote just 2 verses, enough for a 30-second TV spot. They added a 3rd verse, he said, just in case anybody would ever want to record it. Then he assumed it would never be heard again. But Richard Carpenter saw the commercial on television. He recognized Williams's voice singing it. He called him up and asked, "Is there a full song?" Williams said yes. If there hadn't been, he later admitted, they would have lied and written it immediately. Karen Carpenter recorded the vocal, and that voice, that pure, devastating, once-in-a-generation voice, turned a bank commercial into one of the most beloved wedding songs of the 20th century. Released in August 1970, We've Only Just Begun peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and hit #1 on the Adult Contemporary chart for 7 weeks. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1998. It sits at number 405 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Song from a song born in advertising to one written in an empty house by a man who had just lost everything he loved. Gordon Lightfoot. And a divorce. And a song that a young girl helped make more honest.
And yes, we've just begun.
Song 5. If You Could Read My Mind. Gordon Lightfoot, 1970.
Ghost is me, and I will never.
There is a summer in Toronto in 1969, a house that is up for sale, and Gordon Lightfoot sitting alone in it because his marriage is ending and the house is being sold and there is nothing left in it but him and the silence. In that silence, he wrote this song.
I'm a ghost that you can't see.
Lightfoot later described the moment simply. He was going through emotional trauma. The separation was coming, and he said that of course manifested itself in that particular song on that particular afternoon. He had been an established folk artist in Canada for years, but this was different. This was personal in a way he had never been before.
Because the ending just too hard.
The song compares the failure of the marriage to characters in a ghost story and a paperback novel. The imagery is gentle but devastating. I'm just a ghost you can't see, or he sings. And then the chorus that has haunted a million heartbreaks. The feeling's gone, and I just can't get it back.
We start, who gets burned in a three-way script.
There is one remarkable detail in this story. When Lightfoot's young daughter Ingrid first heard the song, she asked him a simple question. She said, "Daddy, don't you lack any feelings?" Because there was a line that put the blame entirely on his wife. And Ingrid, just a little girl, asked him to change it from the feelings that you lack to the feelings that we lack. He did. That single change, made at a child's request, made the song more honest, more human, and more lasting. The song hit #1 in Canada and #5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It has been covered nearly 200 times. Bob Dylan, Barbra Streisand, Johnny Cash, Neil Young, all recorded it. Whitney Houston's producer Michael Masser later settled a plagiarism claim with Lightfoot over similarities in The Greatest Love of All. But Lightfoot dropped the lawsuit because he didn't want it to hurt Houston.
The story always ends.
A song about a ghost in an empty house. Now, a song born from an entirely different ghost. A band that covered the Beatles and accidentally made something more powerful than the original.
That you left, I never knew.
Song 6, Reflections of My Life. Marmalade, 1970. In December 1968, a Scottish band from Glasgow became the first ever Scottish group to reach #1 on the UK singles chart. They did it with a cover of the Beatles' Obla Dee, Obla Da. Their name was Marmalade, but they knew they couldn't stay as a Beatles cover band forever. Their new deal with Decca Records gave them complete creative freedom to write and record their own music. And so vocalist Dean Ford, whose real name was Thomas McAleese, and lead guitarist Junior Campbell sat down to write something original, something that sounded like them. The result was Reflections of My Life, a melancholy ballad about time passing, about change, about the slow, quiet grief of watching your world shift. The song structure, listeners noted, you shared an unusual DNA with the Beatles' A Day in the Life. The same 8-bar chord sequence cycling throughout. But the most distinctive element is something you might not notice consciously the first time you hear it. In the middle of the song, there is a guitar solo. It sounds different, dreamlike, almost like it's playing backward, because it is. Campbell recorded the solo on his left-handed Gibson, then reversed the tape. It is one of the earliest uses of backmasking on a soft rock hit. Released in late 1969 in the UK and March 1970 in the US, Reflections of My Life reached number 3 in the UK, number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, and number 7 on the Cashbox chart. It sold over 2 million copies worldwide. It was Marmalade's only American hit. Dean Ford later fell on hard times. He moved to Los Angeles and, for years, worked as a limousine driver for artists including Michael Jackson and Bob Dylan. He died on New Year's Eve, 2018, at age 73 from Parkinson's disease. He had returned to recording just weeks before his death, a man who drove Bob Dylan to gigs. And the next person on our list was inspired by Bob Dylan in a completely different way. To write a song about a mysterious sea voyage, using the number of keys on a keyboard. Song 7, Ride Captain Ride, Blues Image, 1970. 73 men sailed up from the San Francisco Bay. Why 73? Because the keyboard had 73 keys. Here is exactly what happened. Blues Image were a Tampa, Florida band who had become the house act at a Miami club called The Image, the same venue that hosted Cream, The Grateful Dead, and Led Zeppelin. They had moved to Los Angeles and signed with Atco Records. Their debut album had gone nowhere. They were working on their second album, Open, when singer Mike Pinera and keyboardist Skip Conte started fooling around with a Fender Rhodes electric piano. It was Pinera's personal keyboard, and while noodling the opening riff that would become the song, he looked down at the instrument. It had 73 keys. He sang the first thing that came to mind. 73 men sailed up from the San Francisco Bay. The rest of the song, he later said, wrote itself from there. When the song came out, listeners immediately started building theories. Some said it was about the USS Pueblo, a Navy intelligence ship captured by North Korea in 1968. Others connected it to Sir Francis Drake, who allegedly sailed with 73 men. Both theories circulated for years. The answer, confirmed by Pinera's wife, is simpler. It was purely from his imagination. The 73 came from the keyboard sitting right in front of him. Ride Captain Ride entered the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1970 and peaked at number 4 in July. It went gold. The guitar solo you hear in the middle, the clean, lyrical one, was not played by Pinera. It was played by session guitarist Kent Henry. Pinera left the band mid-recording to join Iron Butterfly. Blues Image broke up shortly after. It was their only top 40 hit, a one-hit wonder with a story nobody knew. Our next song was also a kind of one-hit wonder, except this one has a story rooted in loss so profound. It was written to say goodbye to someone the songwriter had never actually lost yet. Hollies recorded the song in June 1969 at the EMI studio. Elvis Presley covered it, Loretta Lynn covered it, Bing Crosby covered it. McClellan was named the Nashville Songwriters Association Composer of the Year. He was the first Canadian composer to have a song played over 1 million times in the United States. From the North, to a song about somewhere nobody could quite place, a mystery ship, a group of men, and a number that makes no sense unless you know where the writer was looking when he sat down to write.
The Snowbird sings a song your way.
Song 10, Hitchin' a Ride. Vanity Fair, 1970. This one is pure pop joy from a British band almost nobody in America remembers anymore, which is a crime, because in 1970, it was the 14th biggest song of the entire year. Vanity Fair, spelled F-A-R-E, not fair, like the magazine, formed in Kent, England in 1966. A group of school friends who originally called themselves the Avengers. They had a moderate UK hit in 1969 with Early in the Morning. Then their label handed them a song written by Mitch Murray and Peter Callender, two of the most successful professional songwriters of the British invasion era. Murray had previously written How Do You Do It for Jerry and the Pacemakers, and I'm Telling You Now for Freddie and the Dreamers. He knew how to write a pop hook. I Hitchin' a Ride was about a young man with no money trying to get back to his girlfriend by hitchhiking. Simple story. Irresistible melody. The distinctive element that listeners remember. The two recorder flutes in the introduction. That sound, piercing, slightly medieval, completely unexpected, grabbed radio listeners immediately. It still does. Released in the UK in late 1969 and in the US in March 1970, the song peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 on June 27, 1970. It sold 1 million copies in the United States alone and went gold. The band performed it on Top of the Pops. It topped the charts in Chicago. After this, Vanity Fair essentially disappeared from American radio. But the band never really stopped. The original lead singer, Eddie Wheeler, still tours with a version of the group today. He has been with the band since 1970, making him the longest-serving member. Longer than anyone. From a hitchhiker with no money to a song about a man whose money never bought him peace. The next entry is one of the most beautiful ballads of 1970, and it came from a man who was already a ghost before the Beatles were even famous. Song 11. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. Neil Diamond, 1970.
Where? Who knows where?
You already heard the origin story of this song, written by two men, one dying, recorded first by the Hollies with a young Elton John on piano. But this is a different recording, and it tells a different story.
I'm strong.
By 1970, Neil Diamond was at a crossroads. He had been writing hit songs since the 60s, Cherry Cherry, Sweet Caroline, Solitary Man. He had a reputation as a craftsman, a commercial hitmaker. But he wanted to be taken seriously as an artist, as someone who stood for something larger. His 1970 album, Taproot Manuscript, was his most ambitious statement yet. It included a suite of orchestral pieces he called the African Trilogy, an attempt at something genuinely musical, not just popular. And nestled in that album was this cover. Where the Hollies' version is communal and orchestral, wide and public, Diamond's version is more private. His voice, warm and slightly weathered even in his early career, makes the word brother sound like something you say when you are trying not to cry.
Would not encumber me.
Diamond's version entered the Hot 100 at number 68 in November 1970 and climbed to number 20. On Billboard's Adult Contemporary chart, it rose to number 4. It was not the massive hit the Hollies had, but it had its own emotional gravity, a private version of a public song. And still, Neil Diamond was never quite done. Our final song today comes from a man who nobody expected to go to number 1, a novelty act with something genuine to say. In one of the darkest months in recent American history.
Hit everyone's heart.
Song 12. Everything is Beautiful. Ray Stevens, 1970. 1970 was a brutal year. The National Guard opened fire on student protesters at Kent State. Nixon expanded the war into Cambodia. The Beatles announced their breakup. The country was fracturing. And then, in May 1970, a novelty songwriter from Georgia released a song that told America, simply, almost stubbornly, that everything is beautiful, in its own way. Ray Stevens was best known for comedy records. Gitarzan, Ahab the Arab, Gitarzan. But Everything is Beautiful was something he had been sitting with privately, a genuine statement of faith. A song he wrote after looking at the world and deciding that the most radical thing he could say in 1970 was something kind. So the song opens with a children's Sunday school choir singing the first verse of Jesus Loves the Little Children. Then Stephen's voice comes in, smooth, earnest, full of warmth. Everything is beautiful, in its own way. Released in April 1970, the song debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 and climbed steadily. By May, it reached #1, where it stayed for 2 weeks. It was the 11th biggest song of the entire year. It won the Grammy Award for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance in 1971. The same year that James Taylor and Carole King were defining what singer-songwriters could be, Ray Stevens quietly went to #1 with a gospel-inflected message of inclusion and gentleness. And America needed it, and responded. From Fire and Rain to Everything is Beautiful, that is the range of 1970. That is why this year deserves more credit than it gets.
Snow covered way.